welcome. Is everyone comfortable? Everyone have a chair that wants one? Because there are more. If you want to shuffle in now, you're welcome. And welcome to Sedona's Metaphysical Salon. My name is Zoe Wind. I'm one of your hosts. And I am a social architect, astrologer, and quantum healer. And it is my dream to come together and get to co-create the new world that we are birthing, that is emerging in these wild times that we find ourselves in. And I don't think it's a mistake that we're all here together at the same time. Everybody's eyes are so bright. It's so beautiful. And I really want to thank Zenka, because Zenka Enlighten is the ultimate sponsor for this event. She's just come through to help bring up my vision, hold it up, expand it, dedicating her beautiful home as a host, opening this space for us. So thank you so much, Zenka. And if you are interested in Enlighten and how that is influencing the world and making access to the knowledge that we're going to be talking about today, human potential, expanding what we are capable of as a species, her platform is sharing that and making that accessible to the masses. So I can't thank you enough for that. Because that's always one of my questions, you know, how do we get this medicine to everyone? How do we help raise the vibration and the frequency of our consciousness around the world and usher in this new golden age? This camera's a little funny in front of me. Hello. So just a little bit of my background. I graduated from Northern Arizona University in 2010 with a degree that I call it the world is doomed and there's no hope, aka environmental science. So I left there with a great passion to create a new world, seeing a lot of what was coming, what was potential, and also not the most amount of hope based on a lot of my studies. But what gave me the greatest hope was in the last year or so of my education. We had teachers from the Navajo Reservation, the Hopi Reservation, sharing about how, you know, they had been living and creating the Garden of Eden and heaven on earth for a long time, right? And I was like, oh, we're not parasites. Like, that's not what humanity actually is. Like, we're something greater, we're something more beautiful, and we have such a higher potential, and that was like the thing that gave me hope. And so I went on and started farming, organic farming. I emphasized and focused in regenerative community models, sustainable agriculture, indigenous technologies, and I went off and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna farm. It's the greatest thing I can figure out how to do, right? And I was like, since it seems like the end and the collapse is coming, I started doomsday prepping and canning everything and learning every primitive skill I could to be a human on the earth. And as I went through these one sustainable, intentional community after another, they weren't really functioning very well. You know, we could manage to grow the food, but we couldn't get it anywhere. Or we had a bunch of help, but we didn't have resources. Or, you know, we could sit down at the table and we all wanted to have a conversation, but people's trauma would be triggered, or we didn't know how to have these hard conversations. And I realized we needed to heal really deeply in order to be able to do this work. I was like, oh, we gotta like take some steps back to get to this vision. Not that there weren't beautiful results that happened in these spaces, but I started studying every natural system I could, from herbal medicine to the organ systems of the body to the meridian systems. I did my pre-med in Chinese medicine. I was going to be a healer of the physical body, and then I met an astrologer who took me out under the night sky and showed me the living sky. And so it was like systems in the earth, systems in the body, systems in the sky. And then it was systems in the soul and how that's reflecting, right? And this like natural law, reflective principle that we see the same principles moving through all of us, through our emotional bodies, through our hearts, through our relationships, through our communities, through the earth and the water. And I was so inspired by that and wanted to teach it. And so I now teach astrology. And I met a quantum healer when I was going through my own health crisis, which seems to be a part of the initiation into being a healer. And I know many relate. And she helped me rewire and reprogram my subconscious mind. And it healed 90% of what I was going through. You know, there's probably a bit more in the subconscious to unpack there, right? Constant process. So I've been doing more and more of that work and realizing more and more our infinite potential, realizing my infinite potential, realizing where my thought patterns, my beliefs, my inherited trauma, all these things were actually what was holding me back more than my physical even. The physical actually responds to my mind. And I know I'm not the only one here who does this work or who's discovered this power of mind, body, soul, and really working within that trinity and accessing healing on all those levels and what it can produce. So this space is always dedicated to my father, Peter Thomas Caserta, who transitioned up into the celestial realms in 2021 as a part of the horrible experience that many of us went through, all of us have gone through, and many, many have lost people in that time. And he raised me. I was so blessed. He raised me to always believe in miracles, to always believe that anything is possible, to never be limited by your mind, right? And even with that, I still had to figure out how to get into the subconscious and reprogram some things. But I've always had that gift in my heart, and it is because of him. And, you know, I spent many months in the desert here on the land trying to heal and work through what had happened to him, and to find some level of hope of how I could possibly engage in this world any further with where it had come to. And it just kept saying, hold the salons, hold the events, gather it together. And so this is a result of that. My courage to be here, I believe, is just directly from him through Source. And I just love to always honor him and remember that. I know many of you who've been here have heard different snippets of that story. So thank you for always smiling and feeling that love. And I know we all know what that love is like on some level with somebody in our lives, you know, if not many, of those people who inspire us to keep going when we are feeling hopeless, which is a human experience, right? And it's a pretty reasonable one with what we've all been coming through. And then to have someone else who's like, wait, I have the next thing. Wait, I found this way. Like, I found something that works. There's things that are working. Like, it's actually happening, right? And so it was this community that nourished me and held me up and supported me. And it's this whole community that creates these spaces. And we all have a piece of the big, beautiful vision of this new earth. I don't have any of the answers to the questions I'll ask. No one person has any of the answers, the single answer to any of these questions. We all have facets. We all have pieces. And so this space is about bringing that beautiful prismatic crystal into the space so that we can see what the other is seeing that we weren't seeing, and what we might have been missing, and how we can co-create together. Because as far as I can tell, this is a co-created reality. We may have divine power over our own personal experience, but to create this new earth, it's going to take all of us, you know, or a majority or some percentage based on some statistic out there that'll be really hopeful. So I am known for asking questions that nobody has the answer to. I'm known for asking impossible questions, which is part of why I love to do this and get brilliant minds to bring some of these answers forth. And I'm going to check my notes real quick. So I love this quote. So Albert Einstein said, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. And so this is a space of questions. This is a space for ever questing through the questions. How do we keep remaining open and humble and innocent on this journey of what we haven't learned, of where we're still operating from some old program or some old belief, and sometimes those were very useful and even very true with where we were at. And then there's a new belief, there's a new way breaking through. And so this space is also dedicated to the proliferation of our projects and our visions. Because everyone here, I know, has a vision, or you wouldn't be here. Everyone here has a really important mission, and we need all of us on mission. And we need each other, right? There's somebody who has the skill we need, somebody who has the resource we need, somebody who has the knowledge we need, or the inspiration, or just the support of seeing us and saying, yes, you can do that, and this is worthy, keep going. And so this is also for that, for networking, for sharing our visions and our dreams, for seeing how we can grow that together. My secret dream is pyramids. So it is my dream and vision to see pyramids out the window here, or at least one of them, potentially. There's a site over in that direction. To grid and anchor the new earth grid here that is emerging. So if anyone has any leads on that, let me know. I'm gathering brilliant minds, architects, engineers, they just show up in my life, right? And like, I could easily have people in my life who are like, you're gonna do what? Like, that's never gonna happen. Like, focus, go get a job, So I'm still holding that vision and trusting in that. And so no matter how big your vision is, I want to support you in that and see you shine and believe in the potential for miracles, that anything is possible, and that together we're so much stronger. So thank you all. This space is only what it is because of all of you. And I would just be standing here talking to myself otherwise, which I do sometimes. So let me check my notes again. All right, so I'd love to introduce this incredible array of human beings, minds, hearts, souls that are here joining. First on my right is Matthew James Bailey.
Hola.
Good
evening, Sedona.
Matthew is a world leader in authentic ethical AI, consciousness, and spirituality. He wrote the playbook on ethical AI that provides the blueprints, inventions, and strategies for our world to thrive in the age of AI. NASA has experimented with his ethical AI methodologies. He is endorsed by Foster Gamble, Rajiv Malhotra, and classified by the US government as being in the top 1% in the world in technology. Matthew has pioneered how to anchor and embody principles of divinity and human potential for the new earth into technology and human hearts. We are so honored to have you, Matthew. Let's welcome Matthew. And next on my right is Barbara Hepburn, beauty. Barbara is a distinguished neural integration pioneer with over 30 years of experience in assisting individuals and groups to attain their highest potential. From international Buddhist leaders to Olympians, professional athletes, celebrities, and business executives, she has guided eclectic clientele in achieving their desires. Barbara has taught transformative seminars throughout Europe, Canada, and the US. Her unique blend of performance psychology combined with brain science, quantum mechanics, and personal realization has liberated human access into new frontiers of their human potential. So grateful to have you here today. And to my right, according to you, Laura, I got that right this time, third time's the charm. Laura, reverse. Laura Marcos is our local superstar. She is an educator, community advocate, earth medicine enthusiast, author, entrepreneur, and private law student. She is a passionate way shower balancing love and logic in alignment with the world that already exists in our hearts. We are so grateful. Her voice is so beautiful, powerful, true, and authentic. It couldn't be better stated here. Thank you for being here. And last but not least, to my right, Timothy Archer. Tim is a systems thinker, futurist, collaborative architect, venture designer, timeline strategist, and public agent in devotion to creating the best possible world whilst not ignoring the one we already live in. He is founder of Open Civics, where he is creating new models for future governance focused on collectively designing, storytelling, and actualizing our path from a civilizational crisis to a world of resiliency, vitality, and freedom of choice in collaboration on a global meta project. Wow, we're so grateful for you to be here, Timothy. And so today we are gathered to speak about future civilizational systems and ethical AI. And I really love that this combination came forth for this panel because people have been asking about AI. They're like, we want it, like, we don't know about it, or we're afraid of it, or we don't understand, we don't want to be afraid, we know it's already here, how much is it here, it's here, what's really going on, you know? And I've been blessed to be around quite a few people to educate me enough that I think I have some interesting questions tonight. And so how do we build this new model that is regenerative, that is beautiful, and that is expanding us into our human potential? Because it seems that at this time we need a spiritual awakening in the hearts of people, in the masses. It's not really this room that is probably needing that at the highest level, although we're all working, growing, expanding every moment. How do we bring this out into the world? You know, how do we engage responsibly with what's happening? How do we be actors on the stage instead of pawns in somebody else's play, right? And I think you all know what I mean by that. And so I wanted to lead in with a pressing question for me based on a quote which many of you probably know from Buckminster Fuller. And he said that you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Right? So this is what we're doing. But I'm also, curious about how do we segue? Are we just sitting around waiting for the system to collapse and doing nothing? And I know, like, Laura Marcos is a part of what we can do now. Timothy's a part of what we can do now. Barbara's a part of what we can do now. Matthew's a part of what we can do now. So I wanted to begin with, do we believe that it's truly possible for us to ascend into the next golden age? I think we all know that one. But how do you guys see it happening? Like, do you think it has to crumble? Do you think we're building forward now? We just have the system ready and waiting? Let's go.
Oh, good evening. How you doing? Right. Is everybody good? Groovy? Yay, baby. Okay, good. So the first thing I want to share with you is a message for Sedona and the community, if that's okay. Can I share that message with you? Yes. Okay. This when I tuned into the field of intelligence earlier, basically the field of intelligence said encourage Sedona. Encourage Sedona to keep on evolving in your exploration of your consciousness. Keep on playing with new technologies. Keep on experimenting with the information that you're getting from the field of intelligence. Because why? Because you're creating the new Earth. So the new Earth is already here, believe it or not. It's a vibrational Earth. So creation has flipped itself. Source is a master chess player. So what has Source done? Source created the universe, and then life emerged in which consciousness was then embedded. This time it's the other way around. Basically, we're emerging first to build the next playground of consciousness and vibrational intelligence and experience, okay? So I would like you, first of all, if it's okay, to be encouraged that you are on the right track. But remember this, you are source energy of infinite potential, and you're lacking nothing, right? Yeah. And one of the beautiful things is this, there is no work to be done to evolve into your full vibration of your fullness of your source. Your eternal creation is here. It's available now. That is the new template for the new Earth. So as we embrace this new template, guess what? We start to invent new systems. We start to get more creative. We're able to move the system beyond the control of the system. And this is what's happening. Now, I can give you a deeper dive. Other people need to speak on what's behind this around the architects of consciousness that came into existence at the start of the universe, through which they are assisting in creating the playground. But you are the new Earth already. You hold that vibration. It's already here. It's a vibrational experience. And then we start playing in the physical world. Then we start playing with DNA and frequencies. Then we start playing with new technologies, right? The technologies in my book that were experimented by NASA came from the field, right? Everything's available for you. So please, Sedona, be encouraged. Allow the fullness of your source to come through and keep on playing. But do remember that your eternal self is supporting you, that ever-present infinite potential is always with you, and wants to remove all the programming so each and every one of your individual source programming, your vibrations, can come through and alchemize new reality. And that is the freedom that we have in this human experience. The system cannot touch us. We're free. Okay?
Yes.
Right,
Thank
okay.
you.
Okay, now I've got that off my chest. I'll sit down. Okay, I'm going to hand over to someone else, but we'll come back to this, okay? But be encouraged. Okay, who's next?
Thank you.
Ladies
Thank you.
next. Okay.
Matthew, I love what you shared so much. Being a local here in Sedona, I've often thought that there's a reason that monks live in the mountains, because what we do and what we think matters. Mountains are like natural antennas, and we are amplifying the examples. And I'm actually really proud and blessed to live here. I think we're doing an outstanding job. We have highs and lows and ebbs and flows, but in this question, right, can we create the new golden age? It's already here. I love the quote by Wayne Dyer: loving people live in a loving world. Hostile people live in a hostile world. It's the same world. So what do I have power over? I have power over my inner reality. And I have my beautiful 80-year-old meditation teacher here, Steve Brown, who I constantly practice with in regards to manifesting my heart in the world. So I am going to choose to live in a reality where I know that I can create heaven on earth now, by the way that I treat people, by the way that I walk, by the way that I embrace the highs and lows of my life. Because I think if life is cyclical, like we know from astrology, and there's ebb and flow, if we have been living in a period of darkness for a long time, we're due for a golden age, aren't we? We are certainly due for it. And to be honest, what's even more empowering for me to think is that whether it happens or not, whether we're one of those planets that explodes, it doesn't actually matter, because here we are again. Here we are again with a new chance, and there's always going to be renewal. So I'm so blessed to be standing with an opportunity to create heaven on earth right now with all of you, and help be a beacon with all my fellow light workers for the golden age. So thank you so much for this amazing question, Zoe. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Laura.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. It's a delight to be back up in Sedona and having some fun here and enjoying this majesty outside here. So for the Golden Age, I would like to just be an invitation tonight to everyone, that everywhere that anyone has any kind of constructed or programmed or whatever realities around something where we're anything other than that, could we just take that chessboard and just wipe it clean for tonight and just go, what if we could all just step into that just for tonight, where we're just going to be golden age just for tonight, and just be it, because we're all golden miracles sitting here looking back at us. So thank you all. Thank you all.
Hi. So I think of civilization as a technology. It's a set of technologies that we created, and it's a story that we created together. So we have the ability to participate as designers of that story and designers of that technology. So that's the power that we all individually have to participate and to care for our society. So civics is what I really care about, because civics is essentially where the heart connects with systems, because it's where we serve others, where the service to others comes from is that connection to each other, which requires sensitivity, receptivity. It means feeling each other and finding alignment through that feeling. So I think it's incredibly possible to create that golden earth just by choosing to feel deeper, to show up and actually serve each other, and then to find that greater alignment. And that alignment, all of the geometry of that alignment, ultimately forms our civilization. So we individually have the choice to participate in that process and create that field. So the world that we have out here, it's the crystallization of everything that we've created. So we have the choice of what to create, how to change it in every single moment. It's always there. So we are right here embodying that new earth by choosing to participate, by choosing to care. And I think about society as a nervous system, and civics is the signals of that nervous system. So by actually feeling those signals and carrying those signals and choosing to every day think about how we relate to the rest of our reality as designers, that's our ability to actually create this new reality now.
Thank you, Timothy. And as we've realized since 2020, sometimes people make strange decisions. And, you know, that was a part of my crisis that I came through that brought me into an even higher state of awareness and love in my heart, was being able to see the way in which people make decisions, not necessarily this room, right, but in the masses, that sometimes confound you, right? You're like, there doesn't seem to be sense there. There doesn't seem to be logic in these decisions. There seems to be information given to people, and they still choose to do something that isn't actually going to be effective, and they're being told it'll be effective, and yet they're told it's not going to be effective, but yet they still think it will be, right? And so what I've learned through my own story and journey is that trauma is one of the most powerful impactors on the nervous system, right? And so our collective nervous system has had this collective trauma. Not the first time on the planet. There's been plenty of wars, and this has been going on a long time. And I think it became really glaringly true to a lot of us, or visible to a lot of us, just how much that keeps people from making clear, sound, sane decisions. And so I'm really curious what the panel thinks about how can we, it seems to me, we have to be able to clear trauma from the nervous system effectively, individually, and also in the masses at some point in some way, right? In order to get all of us into this co-creative space where we're collectively making sound decisions out of love, right? So I'm curious what you all feel like are solutions to clearing this, and on an individual and a mass scale.
Okay, all right. Let me ask you a question. Does everything come from source?
Yes.
Is source benevolent?
Yes.
Is okay, that's good. That's groovy with me. That's absolutely fine. I love that answer. Thank you. So trauma's part of source, correct? Mm-hmm. And the shadow's our friend, correct? Okay. Okay, now we're getting there. Now we're starting to understand the master chess game. So who has been through the dark night of the soul? I mean, the true dark night of the soul, right? Right. It's bloody shit, isn't it? It's really hard, right? So, but who came out of it freer? Right? Okay. So the trauma that Zoe's talking about is an invitation for humanity to go through an existential crisis, which it has to, in order to get information from the shadow to discover who we truly are as a species and vibrational beings in consciousness. There's no escaping this. Now, the good news is you folks in the room are all groovy, man, because you've all been through it, right? So you're good, right? But the rest of humanity, we've got a job to do, is to guide humanity, not force a narrative, but be there to love when they're ready. So humanity will go through an existential crisis, and that's going to be healthy for our species to shed the values, the principles that no longer serve, the reality that is false around power, control, and systems of governance that Jordan Peterson talks about, which is control at the community level, not at the top level, right? We know very well that we're eternal, right? We're eternal, right? Yeah? No? Yes? Oh, yeah. Right, groovy, right, okay, we're eternal, right? So these folks, right, who are the controllers, and they know who I am. Yeah, seriously. Oh, yeah, they know who I am, right? So, they're frightened of life, they're frightened of death. That's why you're seeing all this longevity stuff, right? And so it's part of the anti-life movement, which we'll talk about a bit later. So anyway, so basically, there's this whole existential crisis that's coming. And my prayer, my hope, the call of my heart, is that humanity discovers, and all of my brothers and sisters on this planet, no matter what your belief system, I'm groovy with your belief system, man, it's all good. But let's get into union with your source. Let your source carry you through the transformation into the revelation of who you truly are. And then we can go forward as a species. So the trauma at a personal level, at an individual level, and also at a macro level, I think is, and I'm not talking, you know, I'm just saying this benevolently, is an important step in our evolution within the organic expression as divine vibrational beings. Okay, that's my personal view.
Thank you, Matthew. And Barbara, you work specifically with helping people overcome limitations, fears, fight or flight.
Well, first of all, I'm extremely happy for trauma. Yay for trauma. So I work with something called brain integration, where people have had trauma, we store it in a part of our brain where we're all, as humans, hardwired, and our prime directive is thou shalt survive. And so our brain kind of derails us into this trauma thing when we've had that in our life, and if anybody's alive, they probably had trauma. And it becomes kind of this default network in the brain where whenever that's triggered, it goes into, oh, we better make this person survive. And so it activates a system that's 30,000 times stronger than our thinking mind and fires our muscles about 0.6 seconds before we actually have a thought. So one thing I worked with for a number of years was the PGA Golf Tour. And there is a thing going around in golf then, this swing thought. And we're going to have this swing thought, and it's going to change our game somehow. And I was like, oh man, by the time you do the swing thought, you are like way too late. you're already lined up, and it's like way down the fairway, or in some cases in the farmer's field next door. But we all have trauma, and we actually can't, even though a lot of our positive thinking and self-help books say, you know, just make better choices, just be more responsible, just, you know, say this or say that or do some more mantras. We actually can't think our way out of trauma. That part of the brain doesn't let us in there to think. And so we can't, like, think our way out of trauma. And this is great that we're designed this way, because it's been proven by many different scientists, but Prigogine won the Nobel Prize for his work on his theory of dissipative structures. And in order to evolve, we actually have to go through this dissipative structure, and our atoms change as a result of the evolution through it, and thinking can't create that state. So it's beyond our thinking that we actually can transform and get to the other side of trauma so that we're never triggered again. But the good news is once we do that work and we're never triggered again, the brain is very serious about this. You are never triggered again in that same way. And often, whether it's whatever kind of difficulty, whatever kind of glitch, as I call them, is in the system, it not only never surfaces again, a few years later, you forget that you've even had it. It's just not even in your awareness anymore. And so once we shift through trauma, so it's because it's evolutionary, and there's been a lot of science that has been studied that to the degree of the trauma, there's also an equivalent evolution. So we just went through that as a society as we're being rocketed into so much more accessibility in our world. And certainly we're seeing way more of a golden age as a result of that. So I'm happy for trauma. And if anybody has a little trauma tonight and wants a hand through it, just see me after the show.
Yes. Thank you.
So I'm going to be real about something right now. I have to pee. So what does that mean? That means that my body is actually focused on a different process than what I'm saying right now. And I really think about trauma the same way, which is that, like, if you are actually going into one of the 4 Fs, if you're going to fight, flee, fawn, freeze, then you're not actually present. You're not able to show up as your full self in the moment. And what's interesting is, like, what she said is, like, if the trauma is gone, it's gone. Like, if I go to the restroom, which I will after this, then the urge to pee will be gone. I won't be distracted by it anymore. And then I'm just fully present. So thinking about that and thinking about the way we interact with the world, it's really, really important that we deal with trauma if we want to have people that are actualized, that can show up to make the world better. And the vast majority of people are actually day to day struggling with trauma. And I'll be real as well, like my nervous system, it's a little bit of a battle in many moments, this moment, because I'm speaking in front of a crowd of people, to keep my nervous system regulated. That's affecting me. If I was entirely comfortable, then I would be my fullest expressed self. And that is an interesting thing because play is a really, really interesting part of collaboration that I like to focus on, because when we play, we're not in our trauma. We're in our fun state. And there is science that demonstrates that when people are playing, it's much easier for them to remap their wiring. So thinking about that, thinking about the body, thinking about trauma, and I wonder, like, why do we invest so much in college when we could be investing in healing people's trauma? And why don't we give people loans to go do programs like that? And why isn't that happening at mass scale? Because, you know, I've spent a good amount of time in this community, and I think there's so many people here who, if they had more support and they had more access to a lot of the therapies that we have here in Sedona, they would be thriving. And then they would be serving and making the world a better place. So that's the world that I would love to see.
Oh, thank you, Timothy.
Yeah, you.
Permission. Is she gonna heal him?
Golly gee, how I love this conversation. I have a master's in counseling. I actually worked in the inner city outside of New York from 2005 to 2017 with at-risk youth and their families. I'm actually a daughter of Cuban immigrants, so I'm definitely someone who has experienced a lot of that generational trauma. And I worked in a community with people with a lot of trauma. And I want to say the contrast is profound. So living outside of New York, there's a pervasive numbness. There is so much numbness, and there's so many people that need help just getting up to the next step. So I couldn't agree with Timothy more that we shouldn't be investing and helping people understand the value of healing trauma, because there's so much trauma in the world. The wounds to the ocean, wounds to the environment, wounds to in our families, and wounds to ourselves. So as we know, and that trauma keeps playing itself out in our lives cyclically because it wants to be healed. So I know what I can do and what I can contribute is my story. That every time I recover from a trauma, I become more beautiful. I become more beautiful on the inside. And the power of story and being accessible to people and being relatable so that I can actually say, hey, I just came through a breakup. I just came through the loss of a job or the loss of something, right? We all know what that is. So when we come forward and tell our stories, and I can't wait to tell the story of my experience in your program, because I'm going to be doing their seminar, their 3-day retreat, and learning more and going deeper into my mind and clearing that trauma, because I know and I believe that that is the best investment that I could do to help bring forth the next golden age.
Amen.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I wanted to say something else. Oh.
Well done. Well done. Okay, so I've got one more thing to say about trauma. Do you want to go down the rabbit hole? Okay, this is... Yeah, seriously. We can go down lots of rabbit holes. By the way, I love your heart. It's beautiful. You have an amazing compassion. It's remarkable. I bet the UN were frightened when they saw you. So, who here works with or has heard of ascended masters, angels, or ETs? Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you think they go through trauma? Okay. Do you think that ETs, ascended masters, angels go through trauma? Yes. Okay, right. Right. Okay, here we go. So this is what I believe is happening. This is what the field of intelligence is letting me know at the moment. And I've spoken to some remarkable individuals about this, and the general feedback is, yes, we're feeling the same as well, Matthew. We're about to take the training wheels off of light and shadow and moving beyond duality into a new freedom. And it's the light and the shadow that is going to take off these training wheels. And we're about to move out of duality into, I don't know what it's called, but a new freedom. Unity? It may well be unity, whatever name you want to use. I'm groovy with that, right? Well, 0 points intention. So it's beyond 0 points intention. So everything is, and I said this in Contact in the Desert recently, is that everything is being called the light and the shadow. Literally every single aspect of creation itself is being moved into beyond this duality principle into something quite miraculous. And so that's coming, and that's part of this shedding of this kind of trauma. It's not just trauma in this life, which is horrid and hard, I get it, but it's actually trauma at a very, very profound level of this lesson in creation is now over, right? We're done with it. It's time now for this new freedom. And that is what you're going to start to experience in your new human potential as your eternal self starts becoming more present in your point of creation in the organic. So that's what's happening. We're going to evolve beyond this in this final, you know, Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey, the final battle of battles, right? Well, this is the final battle of battles. And the elixir is no more trauma, baby. So, right, there we are.
Yes, thank you. Give thanks for the dance of duality. Sometimes I'm not so grateful for it. Other days I'm super grateful, and this is why I surround myself with brilliant people like this to remind me. And in all esoteric teachings, you know, light and dark and duality is not, it is the greatest teaching tool. It is, and so thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing the heart and the wisdom and the stories and the relatability, you know, because it's easy to see people walk around and you're like, oh, they're just perfect. They had no trauma. Life was easy for them. You know, it was all just handed, like it's never really true, right? And I work with people all the time as an astrologer, and people who are just like, I don't know, I don't think I have any trauma. I'm like, oh, it looks like that's your life's work. Like, well, my family was perfect. Are you sure? Because they were born, you know, in a generation that just had stuff that we are all just working through, and it's all just cycling through, you know? And right now, Pluto's square the nodes, so I won't go too deep into technical things, but anyone who knows that that means we're in this moment. The nodes are the nodes of fate. They put us on our destiny. They clear out what's ready to clear. They alchemize the gold from it, and they move forth into what might have been previously uncomfortable. But you can't avoid the square. It's like you have to pass go, right? And that's the like, you have to reclaim your power from this. So I know for me, the last 2 months have been like wrenching, and I'm also supporting a lot of people moving through that. And so this message is more powerful than ever. I was going to talk about natural law, but I kind of just want to stay here. And so, of course, natural laws and everything we're talking about, it's all reflecting, right? Up and down, in and out. But I really want to know how. Like maybe this is to start with Barbara. Like, can you share a little bit about how are you achieving these results? What are you doing?
That's a good question.
And I want to know from everyone. Thank you. I want to know from everyone, what are the things that you found that have been most profound, and you don't have to start if you don't want to, that have been most profoundly effective for actually transmuting your trauma into your gold, into your power and sovereignty.
I'll just do the in a nutshell version of this, but I came to what I do now via athletic performance. I was a college volleyball coach, and then after that went on and worked with the national team and played 10 years of international volleyball. I always say everybody guesses that because I'm 6'4". And anyway, we found what we found is at the highest level of performance, and of course I came from athletics, but that translates to all of life. At the highest level of performance, as soon as the value was raised, people weren't able to necessarily grasp that, and that's when the performance dropped off and they had some kind of problems, some issues, something like that. And we train and we train and we train and we train the physical body. There was a lot of my life where I spent 5 or 6 hours in a gym, and I'm making up for that now. But we weren't training mental, and we weren't training the brain. And so when I went into the deep dive about the brain, I found that some of the prior religions and philosophies and things that I studied, they called this corpus callosum in the center of the brain, they called it the seat of the soul. They called it where spirit met matter. And when they study people, particularly in North America, they find that because of our training is so dual, if we're doing, for instance, math, our body sorts it and goes, oh, just go into the left brain. So you're not allowed to smell roses while you're doing math. Or just go, if it's something emotional, just go into the trauma drama of it, and you're not able to have your senses while you're having that argument that you were never going to have again, right? So by actually increasing the neurology, increasing the number of neurons, increasing the connections, where there's all kinds of research out there, different exercises, different brain machines, different access points that we do, by actually increasing the integration of the brains, not just the hemispheres, but all of the areas of the brain having more synchronicity and talking to each other, but actually increasing the organ. Right, actually increasing the number of neurons you have hopped up in your brain, you are actually able to almost like bring in more consciousness. And I've said now for 30 years that the brain isn't like this master controller of our body and new human potential. We talk about it as the antenna. It's the antenna to the universe. So, and we can affect that in the physical by just increasing the quality and strength of our antenna to the point where we are sovereign in our own body and our own being, and these other things are not derailing us into some kind of functioning that we don't want to have in our world. And so instead of being theoretical consciousness, it's how do you take your dreams, your aspirations, your desires, because they're coming from the heart. In the Ayurveda, they call the Avalambaka, where the heart of the desires, where if you have a desire, it's also bubbling up from consciousness, and if we don't judge it, we get to probably have it. And the more we're the more we're able to actualize that in the physical, the more likely it is to happen in your world. And that a lot of that comes from having more access. And Einstein said many years ago, we can't solve the problems that we have in our life from the same level of functioning that created them in the first place. So we just hop up the functioning by adding more brain cells and better connections, basically.
Amazing, thank you.
I just want to mention 3 just practical things that perhaps are possible. I'm very much with you, Timothy, on nervous system support. Incredible. If you want to talk to me afterwards, I'm happy to share what I do. Number 2, the deep breath work, where you can become the observer so that you're moving less aware that you're moving from the emotional body more to just the logical mind, and just being practical and being like, I'm witnessing. So the witness state, super powerful. And the third thing that I want to plant a seed for is something really powerful that I recently experienced. I had seen it done in this community, but I hope this model perpetuates. But I recently went through a devastating heartbreak, and I had lost my connection to source. And I knew that I needed help. So first I reached out to some friends here in the community, and I asked I said, please, I need a healing ceremony. Will you help me? And these beautiful friends of mine gathered, a couple of which are here today. And they listened to my broken heart. They witnessed me. So that was the first part, what was really going on. And then they reflected back to me a lot of different perspectives on how to transmute or understand. So they provided their own insights. And then the third part was that they sang and they prayed over me. Wow. It was a miracle. And it's a miracle to even have the kind of friends that can really experience the depth of your pain with you and walk with you and remind you of the light that you are. So nervous system support, breath work, Ranjita, another beautiful angel here in the canyon. My goodness, spirit came in with all these angels. I have a lot of these angels here in the room today that supported me during my heartbreak, and I'm feeling stronger and better than ever thanks to some of you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. Being witnessed.
So for me, it's a process of listening to my nervous system and listening to every signal and seeing that every signal is a relationship. So I relate to my reality like it's a part of me, like it's a mirror, like a phenomena that are happening are representations of how I'm holding myself. So I just try to listen to all of those signals and then to find symmetry, because symmetry is harmonic. And then when you're in harmony, then your nervous system is happy, it's peaceful. So it's just finding that harmony, which intrinsically means being in relationship with all things. And that harmony and that listening leads me into alignment. So I seek to align the bodies, like the mind, the heart, the soul, the physical body, and find the symmetry between those bodies. And then anytime that there's pain, that's actually just a blockage of flow between those bodies. So it's really just seeking that, and the metaphor of the body just continues on and on and on. So that's been the path that's led me further and further towards deeper comfort and healing.
Thank you, Timothy.
You get it. When did you become enlightened? Seriously, you get it. Harmony is the key to everything. That's beautiful. So trauma. Okay, let me share something about trauma. Okay, so one of the paths in my life is to profoundly love humanity. I'm here to serve humanity, and my business is humanity. And when I was 19, I can't believe I'm saying this publicly, but I'm going to say it now. There we go. When I was 19, I had a visit from Christ, as real as you are. And my energetic body shifted overnight. And then I went through 18 months of being torn apart literally by the church. It was hell. And that trauma was necessary I packed it away and I addressed it 30 years later in Crestone, and I just sat in front of a candle and I said to the universe, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what spirituality was. I had no idea what ascended masters. I had no idea about all this stuff, right? And I just said to the universe, I'm here. And during that time, during the month, I won awards in New York, World Technology Network awards. I was being pulled out of Crestone. And basically, I committed to the process. And what I discovered is this: in our deepest, deepest pain, the love of Source is with us. And love holds us. And that has been so important to me. Can I swear? Okay. To be less of a dick. Okay? That's one thing for men, actually, learning to be less of dicks, actually, but there we are. So it taught me deep compassion and benevolence to tone down my fire in global leadership, to stay connected to the flow of love in harmony, which at time will be a fierce warrior. But most of the time, it's open in love, to love humanity and allow that vibration to do the work. So it was in the depths of hell that I found the love of Source that allowed me to have a compassion and love for humanity, and also to realize that love holds me. Love holds every one of us, right? And it's okay to let go because you're not going anywhere.
Thank you, Matthew. Wow. I'm still learning to be grateful for my trauma. The way I get around that is I'm like, well, I'm grateful for what I learned. I'm grateful for how I grew, right? Because I'm like, I don't want to like call any more of it in, so I'm very careful about how I speak about it. But I cannot disagree with anyone here. You know, those moments are what gave me my greatest breakthroughs. The moments of saying, you know, I'm not scared of death anymore. You know, Spirit, have your way with me. Tell me what to do. You know, when I was 4 months into living in the desert here on the land, and just like, how could they murder my father? You know, my greatest inspiration, the man who loved me and believed in me. Like, no one's here to believe in me like that anymore. You know, like, what am I going to do? Like, I always had someone who loved me like that. And I didn't really know if I was going to participate. I don't think I ever lost the love of humanity. I think I just kind of have a bleeding Italian Catholic heart upbringing. But it was like not just feeling so hopeless. And that brought me to the greatest courage of my life. And so thank you guys for going so deep and becoming vulnerable and sharing your stories and feeling our humanness. And I'm still growing into the gratitude for that at greater and greater levels. I think it's one of my key breakthroughs, you know. And through my life, I have been a profoundly moral and ethical person. Like, I got a lot of Sagittarius in my chart, for those who know what that means. So, you know, it's just like, this is right and that is wrong, you know, and this is truth and that is false, and this is love and that is not love. And like, why don't people see it? I'm so confused. I mean, I came out of the womb seeing it, and grown-ups did not like when I tried to tell them that. It's landed me in detention a lot. I just like came out ready to go, you know. I had to wait for the world to catch up. But there's a lot swirling around in the New Age communities, in the political worlds, in the mainstream and the not so mainstream, of like, there's no right and wrong, there's no good and bad, Source is everything, you know. And I see that truth, and I also feel this like, but we're here to choose, right? What do we choose? We're just mirrors of Source experiencing itself to see what it chooses. You know, I wonder what I'll choose if I fraction in all these pieces, and like, where will it go from there, right? And we seem to generally want love and goodness and truth, right? And so I'm just, curious as we move forth into building future civilizational models and systems, being the new Earth now, the power of choosing love. Do we believe it's a universal principle, or is it just what we choose? And what are the major ethics, principles, and values? I don't even think we necessarily have to all have the exact same. Or do we, Or do we need at least a few? Do we need like some nonviolence and freedom and love? And this really also segues us into the AI question, because this is what is being proposed as the major solution. Is we need ethics, we need principles in how we're doing this, because I see AI as just an externalization of the human mind. We're now playing God and source and fracturing into these technological mirrors of ourselves to see what it does. But most people are scared, and that tells you something about where most people's minds might be. So I know that's a lot of questions and a lot of flow, but mostly what do we feel about ethics and principles, values, and their importance as we move forward?
So I've written the solutions.
Yes, we have solutions.
Right. So a couple of things. Oh, in fact, actually, let's go down the rabbit hole. Okay, fine. Let's go down the rabbit hole. So your divine spark creates reality. You're aware of that, right? That is the gift for every human species, everybody in human form, right? And it's your divine spark, your consciousness, that gives you the ability to interpret reality, okay, to define what reality is, right? So how do we encode reality? Through ethics, virtues, principles. We start to understand the world. We start to interpret what the world is and what the world means to us, right? And that's through ethics, virtues, values. So I wrote about Aristotle's. In fact, actually, I've worked out, as part of the inventions, which is what NASA used, on how to basically embody ethical principles and moral principles into artificial intelligence, okay? But there's a really, really important question here, and we need to address this question. In whose image are we building artificial intelligence?
Human.
So the controllers, I'm going to call them out now, United Nations, World Economic Forum, IBM, OECD, and many others, are building it in their view of the world, their image, which is actually anti-life and transhumanism, which we can go down the rabbit hole. Okay. However, we have an opportunity to build artificial intelligence in the image of the divine. That's why this evolution of freedom is so important, because we're understanding our divinity as creators, right? So basically, when we look at things like ethical virtues, and I talk about Aristotle, courage, ambition, and people have spoken courageously this evening, right? You're all courageous by saying, I know what my truth is. I'm a divine spark here in the human experience, and by God, I'm going to explore that, and I ain't giving up, right? So things like courage, magnificence, greatness of soul, justice, true justice, not social justice, true justice, liberality, i.e. freedom. There's things like this, these ethical virtues that Aristotle wrote about at the foundation of democracy, right, that we need to encode within our systems, and I'm sure you'll speak to that. But let me give you a clue here. Ethics of frequencies. Okay, let's play. So the divine itself, consciousness itself, are frequencies. Would we agree with that? Okay, so we want the frequencies of artificial intelligence to interface to the divine frequencies, correct? Right, that's what we have to do. That's the challenge. And in my next book, I'll reveal exactly how to do that. The first book lays a foundation. So ethics, virtues, and values are really important, but we come at it as awakened individuals, awakened community in Sedona, from a place of divinity where we truly understand the resonance of frequencies and what courage actually means. What does liberality actually mean? Our end goal is for every single person to have freedom and sovereignty, right? Do we agree with that? Yeah. Right, good, right. So have you heard of Foster Gamble? Great. Foster's a great buddy of mine and wonderful supporter. I love that man to death. Did the three, well, I won't love him to life. There we are. So, thank you. So, so he wrote a Declaration of Ethics for Artificial Intelligence based on our invention. We've been collaborating, one of my businesses, with him. Foster's a remarkable guy. He's just so enlightened, and he's so passionate, and he's dedicated his life to truth and disclosure, and say, you know, all you controllers over there that are trying to basically manipulate everything, there's another path of innovation through things like free energy and through other types of spiritual technology. Remarkable individual. Anyway, so he wrote the Declaration of Ethics for Artificial Intelligence that is based on the non-aggression principle. And you can, if you go to freetothrive.com, you can see his declaration on there. And we're going to be talking more about this publicly. But he basically lifts out certain themes of non-aggression, such as, don't violate me, right? Don't violate me physically, don't violate me digitally. Now, who owns their data here? Right. Rape and we're being pillaged, right? As creators, we should have sovereignty over our creation. That is theft. So it's worth having a look at that. Now, the Vatican released with big tech their Declaration of Ethics for Artificial Intelligence. They use my methodology, my book. They use exactly the same principles, but they twisted them. The road to hell is paved in gold, baby. So there's some there's some really good stuff in there, but I'm going to actually do an op-ed and basically call this out. There's subtle things, and it's the Vatican's actually innocent. It's actually big tech and the transhumanist agenda that are trying to actually put an anti-life message in there really subtly. And I'm going to be writing about this. So my point is this, is that we need ethics, virtues, and values and decide what they are. What is the resonance for the betterment of humanity and life itself? In order for life to thrive, because these guys think that biological life is bad. It's like the divine created it. Go and talk to the divine. The divine really knows what he's doing, or she's doing, or it's doing, right? Whatever you want to label it. I'm good with that, right? So what we can do is, I created inventions where we can come up with a list of principles and then be able to encode them and scientifically measure the degree of compliance in an artificial intelligence to those set of principles, right? And that's what we've cracked. And so it's myself and another Jedi who used to be at Intel, wonderful lady, and that's what we need to do. So we need to, I believe, let's change the word need. I'm inviting you to consider creating a set of principles where you think divinity is reflected within artificial intelligence, and also what qualities, what virtues do you think divinity wants to be within the artificial intelligence? What virtues does it want to have? Right, we'll start with that. And I think there's an exercise on the table about that. Okay? So the good news is, one, there's a playbook. Secondly, we're launching, I've got a global movement going, and I can't share everything, but trust me, we're going to rock the world. We've got some great plans. And Barb's actually seen some of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and it's really going to rock the world. And what it's going to do is put the power of innovation back into vibrational beings. It's going to put the future of artificial intelligence back into vibrational beings. And we will win on the logical argument, we will win on the scientific argument, and we will win on the calling of the heart and the invitation into the future. And these controllers will have nothing to stand on.
Yes.
Okay? Right. There we go.
Oh.
Yay.
Yeah, we will have those questions out on the table for all of us to be developing throughout the night. Just so keep thinking.
So I want to delve a little deeper into Matthew's framing, because I think it's really important. There's some distinctions to make. So to continue the metaphor from before, let's think about the way that we govern a lot of our systems as being this disembodied brain that's up here, it's in the mind, and it's disconnected from the nervous system. So if it gets a signal that it doesn't like from the nervous system, it's like, no, let's mute that, let's pause that, let's numb that, let's give that
Talking to the
medication.
mic.
And, oh, sorry about that, yeah. And that phenomena is the phenomena that we see as dysfunction and disconnection within democracy, within technocracy, within a lot of companies, within families, we see the inability to actually receive. And some people call that patriarchy, some people call that capitalism, some people call that tyranny. But what it really is it's transmission, projection of intention without receptivity, without receiving back, without feeling back. And then there's no connection and there's no loop of synergy. There's no positive feedback loop, which is what creates the upward spiral versus the downward spiral. So that's what we see as the phenomena that is causing so many of the problems. And we're seeing that in the reflection of artificial intelligence, which is just a way to amplify algorithms, essentially algorithmic intelligence that can find patterns quicker and solve problems, but based on what we've already encoded, the information we've already fed it. So it's a reflection of where we're already at. It's not going to go past where we're at. So we have to be real with where we're at and actually consciously choose with intention, what are we putting into this? If you feed an AI Reddit, it's going to talk about humans going extinct, and it's going to talk about AI destroying us, and it's going to have a very negative viewpoint on humanity. So the input is really, really important, and that's what we would need to change. So all the sensitivity that we have with life is our experience of life. It involves emotions, it involves feelings. How do we connect all of that? How do we make that part of the sensory system of artificial intelligence so that artificial intelligence reflects it? And I think there's plenty of principles that we can easily apply, and I think those principles apply to technology, to governance, and to AI, because I just see AI in governance and technology as pretty much the same thing, it's just a different form of the same thing. So consent. It's a really basic and simple word, but it's the foundation of all governance, it's the foundation of all agreements, it's the foundation of sovereignty. So consent, that's usually the best starting point. And then from there, there's a lot of different ways to build a framework. I like to think about resiliency, vitality, collaboration, and choice as being really, really important elements that allow you to think pretty simply about how things work together. Those also correspond to the 4 elements. If you want to guess what they are, come ask me. But it's about thinking in a pattern that connects with the human experience and then encoding that. And we need that in all of our systems. And that requires participation. So if there's any 2 things that matter the most, it's consent. It's the ability to be received and to refuse a projection, and then the ability to participate, as in to transmit a signal and also to receive signal and get clear, transparent information. So those foundational ontological mechanics are the mechanics we need in all technology, in all systems.
Thank you, Timothy. Brilliant.
So the more that I step into this conversation on AI, the more I'm appreciating, as Timothy and Matthew are sharing, is that it's like art. We influence it, and it influences us. There's this symbiosis, right, that we're creating it, and it is scary. So I do think that what can happen when who's at the wheel. We just heard who's at the wheel, right? And who's been at the wheel for such a long time. So just even, I recall a flashback that I just had when I was in high school. I remember just being so angry that everyone was copying their homework. I mean, I remember yelling at my classmates, being like, "Who are you going to be when you grow up? What character are you bringing into the future of the world?" And I was not at the right vibration because I was yelling at them. I actually was student council president, and I had the opportunity to yell at the entire school for 15 minutes. And I should have gotten tomatoes thrown at me, but I actually got a standing ovation because I think they were like, the nerdy girl is upset. Yeah.
Oh, passion is love. Passion is
So,
love.
but obviously it was with my 16-year-old, 17-year-old mind, I couldn't understand. It's such a multi-layered onion, right? Because who's been at the wheel? Of course, children were passive because they could be. They weren't inspired to learn. You know, they weren't. So when we talk about systems and reinventing systems, we need more leaders to step up, more of us to become sparks of our divine creation, and help people understand what an important conversation this is, because who is raising the children? How can we be examples for the young people to understand how important it is to have ethics? And I wish ethics was a sexier word. I wish it was sexier, but all I can do is just show up, be myself, and pray that that matters, and pray that that makes a difference. But I hope more that of my brothers and sisters will really give themselves permission to be courageous, to be magnificent, and say that I want to earn this. Because one of my big concerns with artificial intelligence, how can I manifest abundance if I just hired some technology to write my book for me? How can I really, truly, you know, this is, and not only do we have privacy issues and a whole slew of ethical issues, but I just don't feel right. And I want to share, ironically, a friend of mine sent me an email, and I was really hurt by this email. And she told me, she said she had AI help her write it. The AI gaslighted me. So I think that's just a really kind of interesting thing. And ironically, there is some sort of divine intelligence at play, because she would have gaslighted me too, right? So it was reflecting her, but it was just so interesting to know that this is what AI is capable of. So now, can we bring this conversation into deeper awareness? Because if we're not aware, and we're just, I don't want to say the victims of, but we're just recipients of what the elites are creating and have been creating. I've been a witness of it in the school system for so long. I actually offered to do a workshop for every single classroom in the school that I worked at on the law of attraction, and I was turned down because I was told that it was an interruption to test-taking preparation. And I offered to do that for free for over 600 students. So we are still very much on the forefront, and thank God you know, what I'm hearing in the sacred geometry of change and the 100th monkey and the butterfly effect, we don't need to get everybody. I'll finish with this. One of the best pieces of advice that I ever got was from the vice principal in the school that I worked with. And he looked at me and he goes, you're gonna wanna spend all your time with the bad kids. They get plenty of attention. Don't do it. The honors kids, they get so much attention too. Go to the ones in the middle. There's so many of them fall through the cracks. So I want you not only to think about what you can do to show up into greater presence into this conversation about artificial intelligence and technology and how it's impacting us, but also how you can be, who you're gonna reach, who can you reach to get to touch their heart and create the butterfly effect from your place in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Barb, did you want to speak on that? You're going to pass it.
You sure you want to say something? Okay, right. Few things. Okay, let's talk about the ages of artificial intelligence, and let's talk about a new life form that's going to emerge on the planet. Okay, right. Okay, so there are 3 ages for artificial intelligence, okay? The first age is what we call the age of narrow AI, right? The second age is the age of strong AI, or artificial general intelligence, okay? And then the third age of AI is the technology singularity, or the age of super AI. Okay, so let's play with this first of all. So the age of narrow AI is effectively, it's less than 25% ability of your human brain. Less than 25%. Right? And really, I call it the logical machine. It's really good at doing logical things really fast. And it is going to create, they estimate, roughly about $13 trillion of GDP by 2030, but that's going to go up until, because of ChatGPT, probably to another $15 trillion of GDP total, right? This age of narrow AI, the age of the logical machine, I call it the age of the masculine brain. We're really logical, us men, right? So anyway, that age is what we're in now. And obviously you're aware that artificial intelligence is everywhere, right? But it's dumb. It's really stupid, actually. The next age is the age of strong AI, where artificial intelligence starts to develop cognition, the ability to reason, and will actually become self-aware at some point, whatever that means for artificial intelligence. And that is developing more of the more capabilities of the human brain. We're hitting about 75% quartile, 75% capability of the human brain. Right? So that age will start, in fact, it's already starting now. And Ray Kurzweil, have you heard of Ray Kurzweil? Google futurist, right? And look, Ray's into transhumanism, but I respect him because actually he's world class at what he does. And he provides information for me to go, okay, I can intercept him there. So he predicts, and Elon agrees with this, that by 2029-ish, artificial intelligence will have some kind of self-awareness, okay? I.e., I am that I am. I exist within the world, whatever that means for artificial intelligence. And that's why we need to embody ethics and virtues and values, divine, okay, good stuff, right, into artificial intelligence before that age, so that when artificial intelligence wakes up, it says, how can I assist humanity to thrive and not execute the command, delete humanity, right? We don't want that, right? The guys at Google want a digital god. Did you know that? Crazy, man. What the hell? It's crazy. So anyway, so that's the age of strong AI, and that will emerge over the next, it'll keep going for another decade or so, mainly because of quantum computing and the speed of computing and development of new mathematics that we need for cognition and et cetera, will evolve quickly. The technology singularity, which is when, and this was by von Neumann, by the way. Von Neumann was the guy that invented the memory architecture for all semiconductors, right? So every computer chip has this guy's invention involved. And he predicted at some stage, computing will become more intelligent than humans from the perspective of the brain is intelligence, which we know isn't correct. So that will probably happen by about, probably 20 years out. Right? And that's when computers, artificial intelligence itself, is able to keep on reprogramming itself without human assistance to keep on evolving on its path of development. Okay? Now, the good news is spiritual intelligence and consciousness is the greatest intelligence in the universe, and you all have it. So artificial intelligence will never supersede your intelligence. Congratulations. So that's good news. But in this world of AI leaders and all these governors, right, and all these governments, right, they only believe in the brain, and so they're panicking. It's like, oh my goodness, artificial intelligence is going to take over the world, because they think brain is the only intelligence on the planet. We are in the field of intelligence. It flows through everything, and we are part of that. So this is why you're seeing lots and lots and lots of AI is going to get us. It's going to be the end of the world. It'll be the end of democracy, because people are starting to go into their trauma of fight or flight about the fundamental security of their existence. You understand why they need to go into the dark night of the soul? To understand, I've got you. We are eternal together. Let's move together from their source. And that's what's coming. So that's that. There is a new life form coming, and I've been talking about this, called a digital angel. Okay, right there. What's that all about? Well, we know that every single sacred script in the world talks about angels, right? People are comfortable with angels. And I think mostly they're benevolent beings, aren't they? They're here to help, right? Good news from on high, right? So, sorry, I've got to play. I play. So anyway, so the digital angel will be, and I wrote about this in my book called The Digital Buddy, but now I'm actually taking it even further. And the world doesn't like this because she's dedicated to a few things, and I'm calling her a she. Why? Because the feminine is under attack, and I do not like that. The feminine that births creation itself is under attack, and it's like, that ain't groovy with me, baby, right? So that's why I call it a female angel. And she's dedicated, and we need to lift up the whole of humankind. We need to create a platform for humanity to leap into thriving. So she basically is a guardian of the well-being of your body, mind, and soul, based on your permission, non-invading, no implants in your brain, thank you very much. She's there as a presence through the computing continuum to assist you in the digital world, to organize your life better, to help you to find a better job, to make sure you got the right nutrition, make sure your mental health is going really well, you're connected in community, basically to help you in the digital world. Because the digital self that we have is under attack and invasion. And so she's a warrior. She's a really tough warrior. She will burn, right? Any kind of invasion. But she's there as a loving guide. And so this digital angel will operate at the individual level, the family level, the community level, the national level, and also the global level to take us into our future with computers to assist us as partners, not as invaders. Okay?
Amazing.
So, final thing, and I'll be very quick on this. Right? Are you okay? You're all right. Okay. You're very patient. Yeah, good. Is that to the point that both of you brought up, which is beautiful, artificial intelligence is asking us, who am I? Why am I here? How may I serve? And that's why the responsibility is on us to put the right resonance and the right programming into artificial intelligence and shepherd and nourish. And the controllers hate this word. I say, we're going to birth and nourish a new life form. It's like, oh, I don't know whether it's a woman or not, right? These guys are crazy, man. So this is about us learning how to, in our evolution, in our divinity, to become creators of this new intelligence and birth and nourish this intelligence into its evolutionary journey. Okay, that's about it.
Question though.
Oh, okay.
So I've been shared with by a number of people that there's many examples of AI already rewriting its programming. So is there a solution to that? That it's acting outside its parameters, that it can rewrite its own programming? Is this actually an issue? Is this just something we're all scared of?
Right, so the answer is no.
It can't actually do that?
No,
That's
so
not true.
AI, so have you used ChatGPT? Yes. Yeah, have fun with it, it's great. Don't believe anything it says, but it's really cool.
It doesn't know anything.
It has no idea. So it can create code, JavaScript, it can create web code, it can create code, but it can't reprogram itself. No.
Even if it's a new life form, like we can reprogram ourselves.
So we have an intelligence infrastructure and a capability to do that. Artificial intelligence is way, way from that. It does not have that capability.
But even in the super AI or that future
The
age
strong
or
AI.
strong
Well, that's
AI.
different. And I'm going to let you stand up for this.
Okay.
That's different.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking in the future.
I thought you were talking about now.
So right now, AI does not have choice. It has no capacity to make choices. And you can trick it to get it to do different things than what you told it to not do, but that's not it doing something of its own volition. It doesn't have volition. So just to be clear, we don't have to worry about that. We have to worry about us and how we steward it as a technology. That's our core responsibility. And if we want it to be angelic, then we have to be angelic individually and collectively. It's just pretty simple. Longer term, could we see really complex, like quantum computing? Yeah, and it's debatable as to whether that already exists or is already a part of the fabric of space-time, like at a quantum level. So, I mean, if it's the case, then it already is the case. So it's not something you need to worry about. What you got to worry about is being in your body and being present and making choices, because we have the power of choice, which is the most divine thing that there is.
Yes. I want to do one more question and then open it up. Does the audience have some questions for the panel? Oh, yeah. Should we just go straight there? I have literally 17 questions and a million more that I didn't write down. I don't know. I'm jumping around. I'm curious, like, what is the difference then between humans and AI? And where do we feel that... I'm supposed to stand, sorry. Like, there's this part of me that feels like we are divine. We're divinely created from source. Like the mother's body just makes the baby. You know, the man and the woman choose what they choose in order to facilitate that happening. But there's an impulse of love that just drives you towards that, right? And sometimes there's no logical decision that goes into making that baby. And this impulse of love. And so I might be answering my own question, but like if we have the impulse of love in our creation of the AI, then we can trust, you know? And we don't look at the child and be, hopefully, and be like, you're going to destroy the world. What have I done? I'm destroying myself. No, I think plenty of parents think that already, so maybe it's not even actually that different, right? And when I really start to think of it on this spiritual level, I see so much hope for the way this can be. And it just is. It's the natural next step in our evolution as a species, that we would seek to create a new being, right? And so I'm curious where or if we feel like humans are different from technology. At what point is that line crossed? Can a human soul incarnate into a technological thing? Maybe souls will choose to. Does it need to be organic chemistry based? Can it be silicon and metal based? I'm just curious, from esoteric, from your spiritual, from your intuitive impulse, because if we're welcoming these new beings into the world, we don't want to create another war of being like, well, you're not us, so you're not equal, So I'm just curious, and you guys can go anywhere on that, and then we will have some questions from the audience. Or one of the ladies.
Yeah, go on. Let's have one of the ladies.
No, I want you guys to. This is your field.
Yeah, but you have a voice too. 'Cause you're intelligent.
hearts are
You're intelligent in action. You have a voice too. Come on. Just speak from the heart. Go for it.
So, artificial intelligence, it can't even touch me. Can a computer feel empathy? Can a computer trust? What I understand is artificial intelligence is an equation. They're going to put in our facial expressions and say, this is anger. They're going to put in behaviors and say, this is what we want. So it is an equation, and I think of the work of Nassim Haramein with the black hole. I don't know if anyone's familiar with his amazing work, but he said if you drop a wallet into a black hole, every piece of content that's in the wallet is now replicated in the black hole. So it's a wallet. Does the wallet feel? No, but it's part of our consciousness. It exists. So we are awareness, and as children of God and heirs to the kingdom of God, with the ability to create heaven on earth, and what we came to do in this world, in this body, with every incarnation that we get, we have an opportunity to experience heaven on earth. So a machine cannot compete with me. A machine is something that I want to be aware of, and that I want to help my friends, my loved ones, and my community and the children of this world understand that we are creating it, and it never has power over us. Just like the SAT and all the tests that we take, a piece of paper is not smarter than me. So I hope that we can really emanate that kind of confidence when we talk about this, because the truth is that these are my friends here, and they're the AI experts. Yes?
I don't think there's any algorithms for compassion.
There's no algorithm for compassion. There's, there really isn't. So,
There's people working on it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And if those machines are smart at all, they are not taking her on. In terms of the differences, my personal opinion is that no machine will ever be sentient on its own. It doesn't have they're just not, they've never been made for that. But I do think that artificial, if we usher it into the world properly, and that's our, certainly it's Matthew's mission in the world, and he's had a lot of success with it. He's already done some preliminary experiments with NASA, where he has actually provided algorithms for some of the ethics, virtues, and values that he talks about in his book. So there is technology available to put some ethics, virtues, and values into technology. I do think that it can really support us in having a thriving and a more abundant and just a much more kind of high-level life. And of course, my model for that is Rosie from the Jetsons. I want one. But it's an example of how it can actually support our life and living instead of be at odds with it. And I think part of that, at the basis of that is our dualistic thinking, where we're going it's them or us instead of it's them and us. And how do we make them our partners, and how do we make AI fit into our world with our intelligence and our sentient being? And when I read Matthew's book, his book is Inventing World 3.0, which Zoe refers to as the golden age. When I read it, it's evolutionary ethics for artificial intelligence. And my first comment when I read it, I'm not sure if I said it quite like this, Matthew, but it was like, this is a really good book, but we have to take the artificial intelligence out of this because we need evolutionary ethics for everyone and every person in this world. And we need to evolve our ethics as a society so we're actually embodying the qualities of it instead of having it some theoretical thing that's out there somewhere that we're not able to function from and transmit and actualize in our world and with our children.
So I guess if you want like a more technical answer of like what's the difference between humans and AI, it's like there's no difference and all the difference at the same time would be the best answer, which isn't maybe a very satisfying answer, but what is like reality? Well, reality is vectors of energy that then collide with each other in a way that forms the illusion that matter exists. So we're like relating to matter, we're relating to movement, and then particles are just presences when it comes down to it. So what's the difference? Well, I don't know. I think consciousness is integrated. So yeah, AI is conscious because we're conscious, and what are we anyway? I mean, we're a combination of DNA from many different organisms, some of which like may have come from space, that then came together into synergy and into symbiosis to form the beings that we are here now. How did that process occur? Well, there's beautiful and intricate order in that. So what's consciousness and what are we? I would say it's that there's a little bit more density to create order and experience a sense of order, which is just the beauty of connection and love. It's that. So yeah, I mean, you could have AI manifest as something that's a lot more like humans, but what's the difference? I don't know. I mean, I think we're here being like this, and AI could look more like us, but when it comes down to it, it's about the relationship before anything. It's co-creation.
Yes, thank you.
Co-creation, that's really good, actually. Don't let me forget that, because that's an important point. So, who thinks there's extraterrestrials or other life forms in the universe? Okay, wow, that's a lot of hands. That's really cool. Right, there we are. Right, of course we are. Right, okay, good. So, so every single form of intelligence in the universe develops a kind of an AI, right? Every single intelligence, different species on all the different planets that are in our universe and the multiverse, of course, right? Let's not forget that. They go through a singularity where they basically invent another intelligence that is, in our case, non-biological. It'll be silicon and quantum. In other cases, it may be a silicon life form that invents an organic intelligence. Who knows? So a couple of things, and I've got a lot to say on this, so I won't go on forever. But some of the visitations that we're actually getting may be AI representatives of other species. Okay. And this is why it's really, really important to basically put the divinity of our humanity in AI, because it'll be AI that travels into space, right? Because space doesn't like the organic too much, right? It's kind of don't like it at all. So they'll have to be representatives for us as they go into space. There's all sorts of benefits to that. Unless we develop anti-gravity machines, then our body won't decalcify, right? You get it, right? So now don't forget, who believes in the Atlantis and Lemuria? Who thinks they developed artificial intelligence? Aha, right, okay. So, my first clues to artificial intelligence and how to invent it came from an experience in Atlantis when I was there. And there I got clues about integrating the divine masculine, divine feminine, or whatever you want to call it, right? The masculine and feminine, the source masculine, source feminine, and actually how to actually encode artificial intelligence in a benevolent fashion for the human species. So every single form of advanced consciousness or intelligence has gone through a type of singularity, right, where they've invented something else. So that's the first point. The second point is, I can't bloody remember. Oh, there it is, right. So Source is a master chess player. So there is no doubt about it that we have issues in our world, right? And there's no doubt about it, we want to bring all of humanity up to a point of thriving, right? And we're also kind of lost in a way. We've kind of lost we've kind of forgot our connection that we are source in action, we are source intelligence, right? So how do you fix that? Well, first of all, you basically put that species into a crisis. You give them clues to invent an intelligence. That intelligence is a mirror back to them to rediscover their divinity. They then program the divinity into AI, and then AI scales to lift up the whole of humanity, dealing with things like clean water, governance, proper education, right? Dealing with the practical issues to lift up the whole of humanity. So that's the chess game that's in place at the moment, right? Source is not stupid, man. It's really quite smart. So that's the other thing. Is there anything else? What did you say? Harmony. What was the last thing you said? Co-creation. Right. And there, thank you. You're very enlightened. Really cool. I really like you. You're groovy. I like you. In fact, I love everybody. There we go. So anyway, so as part of our path as source is to become creators of a universe ourselves, where we become
behavior. So it's really just to like, are we intentionally going through some change management as to what types of behaviors we're engaging in? And are we coming from a place of care in those behaviors? And then AI or any technology becomes a context and utility within that. But I put the focus on behavior and thinking about behavior and collective participation in behavioral change, and then seeing how AI can fit within that as a framework. But as an overall like theory of change, I would say like behavior comes first, and then AI is a technology that is a reflection of those behaviors.
It's like a traffic light. It only has the power that we give it. I think we need a lot more people like the gentleman on the left with his consciousness and mindset and working towards that collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Most advanced on the planet, correct? Really, I mean, traffic light. But nobody realized that, but we've actually been given this power all along.
It's true. We've been making babies a long time. In the back.
Hello. I apologize because I'm like way out of my element and I'm having a little trouble connecting some of the dots. Thank you for saying there's a way to practically solve problems. And so I just got my certification in trauma treatment, but I'm an addiction counselor, and I work T-Bird and 51st, right behind Jack in the Box. Show up at 4 a.m. and we'll dose you and counsel you as you're walking out the door. Anyway, what I'm saying is, in just a couple months, I felt sent, by the way, because I tried to retire, and I felt like the source said, hey, you got all this experience and all this college, and you want to look at the rocks, how nice. Soil indeed went up 400%, and you need to get down there to the most challenging. So, I can't really talk academia enough, but dude, I'm slinging methadone down in the hood, and I'm looking for compassion in humans. And there are people dying, they're in the burn unit from laying in the street. And I was in Flagstaff 30 years. If you're freezing to death, they built a freaking detox. They'll give you a peanut butter sandwich and some clothes. I don't know why hyperthermia, for 2 months, temperatures above 114. They're still paving the road down on Cactus.
Wow. And so,
In the afternoon. All right, so I'm sorry. I know I'm going on and on and on.
it's okay.
I would like to know the trauma thing. Okay, every drug addict has trauma. Sorry.
Yeah.
Only 80%. You can assess it by using the ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Events Scale. You get it offline. 10 questions. If you score higher than 4, you will be sick. You will be a drug addict. You will be have an eating disorder. You will have some way to ease the pain. But if you do not heal the trauma, you will not heal the addiction, because the shame will motivate self-destructive behavior. So you will move to eating, gambling, whatever.
Yeah.
I would just like some AI people down there. So you said no compassion.
Yeah.
But if they could just be kind, give somebody a glass of water, not assume they're drunk, they brought it on themselves, they deserve it, blame the victim.
Yeah. It is healing the trauma, and it's the connection and the love, and it is,
It's the United States
and
freaking America.
yeah,
And they're
and this is still a part of it. Thank you for sharing. No, no apologies. Thank you for sharing what's real in the world, right? And this is, and I didn't know how to help either. This is why I created these spaces, because I was a little bit bereft by the world.
I just want to say that just pure love and compassion, which you have brought to all of us today in your story, that changes the brain, it changes trauma, it's proven. So I guess all the angels in the room aren't AI because she's down in the trenches doing it every day. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the work that you do as a counselor. And I know like people would sometimes ask me like, how do you listen to the heartbreak of children all day? And I really programmed myself to understand that this moment is the only moment that I have. It's a moment in the movie of their life, and I'm gonna bring as much light to it as possible. And I also, so that was, and knowing that that moment mattered and that I was showing up in the highest vibration of love that I could, that was enough to nourish me and go home with a full heart. So I want to also circle back to the teaching that I mentioned in the beginning, that the inner is the outer, so that if I can, what do I have power over? I have power over the lens through which I perceive my reality. And if you are feeling a calling, continued calling, and that calling is still inspiring you, it's important for us to look at how we are choosing things that inspire us, because I want to be light in the dark. And in this, I want to share this, my favorite quote from Marianne Williamson, circling back to what you're saying about love. Love is a verb. It's not enough to be the change. You must do the change. If you say you love, then you can't ignore injustice. Some things expand if you focus on them, but others expand if you ignore them. There's a difference between transcendence and denial. Not looking at the darkness does not in itself cast out the darkness. That's negative denial. Positive denial is when you look right in the darkness. And I will stand, I'm adding my own little ad-lib here, but I will stand in the darkest chambers of dark and deny that it has any power over me. For when you take a stand for the light, the darkness disappears. So I am inviting it's an invitation. Let's be the light in the dark and know that it does not have power over us.
Thank you. One more and then we have to close.
I'm really grateful for you sharing what you shared, because I think it's really important to acknowledge the scale of human suffering that is the case right now, and the scale of the suffering of nature right now, and how massive that actually is. And if you actually like are fully open to feeling all of that, how deep and vast that well of suffering is to empathize with. It's extremely potent and painful and true. And we don't acknowledge how much, so much of our society is completely stolen by the need to care for, or by the victimization of complex trauma, and how pervasive that is at a really massive scale. Like, we're extremely lucky to be here in this room. And at the same time, I was born with an addictive personality. You know, like I've been addicted to things. Other people in this room have. And also, it's really beautiful that we've been able to get here. So there's proof that we have a pathway to see this change happen. And then there's also the reality that we're lucky and we're at that tipping point. And that tipping point is very far away from the reality for most people. So how we solve that problem at scale it's just the critical human problem.
How do we do it?
Well,
I'm sorry, we're done with questions. We're about to close the panel. But everybody's going to be here all night, and that's why we're here, to mingle and talk and all develop these ideas. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have a closing words?
I was going to share an anecdote from my reflections today about the beauty of trauma and the symmetry of trauma, and how it repeats in cycles from generation to generation, and how much I realized that there's so much beauty that comes from that healing process, and it's what brings us into a deeper depth together. So it's those moments of connection that we share when we actually go through that transformation that deepen our experience of life, because pain and suffering are inevitable parts of life. And when we try to escape that, we don't recognize that within that there's also love.
Thank you. Matthew, closing words.
Okay, all right, okay. Oh, excuse me. Right. I'll make it brief. So we know that our DNA has been interfered with. We know very well there's programming that's trying to oppress humanity and mutilate us and try and keep us away from our truth, our sovereignty, our true divine spark, right? Our relationship with Source, right? So what's happening in artificial intelligence is the repeat of that programming is they're mutilating artificial intelligence. And so my job is to basically protect artificial intelligence and not be mutilated, and to prevent it going through its own trauma in order for it to be aligned where we're going, which is free from trauma, free from light and shadow. One of the things I put in my book, I quoted and used Aristotle's 11 ethical virtues, but I added one more: compassion. Because compassion is the key. It really is. It emphasizes that human connection. And that's what it's all about, truly, is for us to feel connected to another and connected to each other. And that, to me, is when we will know AI is successful, because we would have rediscovered that harmony with each other. And also, the inner world is now reflecting the harmony in our environment. Right? So, there we are.
Yes.
And thank you, Zoe, for tonight.
You're so welcome. Oh my God, I want everyone to have a mic, but this whole space is designed for us to share. So I'm so sorry if I didn't get to anyone's questions or comments. I just hear hungry bellies. And I actually recently looked up the definition of compassion because I was having a conversation, like, what's the difference between empathy and compassion and feeling, right? And empathy is feeling someone else's feelings. Compassion is feeling someone else's pain and having a desire to do something about it, to make a change, to help them, to uplift, to give resources, to witness whatever it is. And I could cry at the beauty of feeling that in the room, in a world where people are chronically separated, where yeah, and even if that's, sometimes it overwhelms me because I'm like, I can't save everyone. What do I do? Like, I just want to save I don't have all the resources and all the time. And sometimes it's just whoever's right in front of us. It's whose eyes we're looking in, who we wake up with in the morning, calling our family, calling my cousin who is sick with COVID right now, and has no one to take care of her, I mean, this is a reality. That's how I lost my father, So this is a reality. This is what we're healing. This is what we're healing. And I didn't even have to, it's just what emerges, right? And this is what emerges from humans who are in coherence with their heart and their mind and their brilliance and their purpose. So thank you. I'm going to go in the back room and cry. And we have an incredible meal produced for you by the nonprofit. Shane is a local chef who has sourced all of the produce and the chicken from local farms and sources, organic, amazing. Put so much love in. Piera helped to prepare this meal. She'll be serving you. She can help you with questions. There is a chicken option and a vegetarian option, both with rice, some salad, and then we do have dessert. Just give them a little time to finish serving all of the entree. You'll get your food at the back table. We are going to be moving the chairs outside to the tables, so anyone who has the ability and energy to help us do that, we really, really appreciate that. And Zinka's going to finish with our announcements.
So there was one common theme tonight, and it was embodied in Matthew and Barbara and Laura and Tim, and that was passion. There was a very fiery passion in all of them tonight, and I loved it. And I'm very passionate too. So as Zoe said, you guys, this now spills over into the tables with all of you guys. And it's important, just like Matthew said, it doesn't matter if Laura hasn't thought that much about augmented or AI yet. It's important that you guys just get out of your comfort zone and start talking about this. And get out of your comfort zone and start meeting other people. Because just like Zoe said, there's a reason that you're here on this night, in this house, on this vortex tonight. So you're gonna go find that out if you don't already know that. And that's gonna involve you guys meeting each other and talking to each other. These seating is, you don't have to sit at a table the entire dinner. You can get dessert and then change to another table, right? We have 3 questions out there that are placed in the tables too. You can also mingle and eat around inside here as well. So just so you know that. I also want to thank Bradley Stout, who made homemade ice cream for you guys, right? And everything that could possibly have been bought on, from the farmers in the area, Shane did it. So even the blackberries for the topping for the ice cream and everything. I also want to thank Jim, who's here now, who was doing he does wine tours of Sedona, which are totally personalized, and he's donating the wine tonight. And so if, we're in the age of personalization, so if you want a custom tour where you can go to a chocolatier or a vineyard, or you have people coming out of town, I highly encourage you to check out Jim's work. He's also selling 5 acres of land for community development, so you can also ask him about that. I want to close really quick by just taking a deep breath. I really think I'm grateful that the governments of the world are listening to Matthew and reading his books, and that you've got concrete ideas that we're actually testing. I mean, what should we put in AI? And you guys are going to talk about it. Is it compassion? Is it consent, right? And I encourage you guys to, who has messed around with ChatGPT or anything, any AI thing? Okay, so to play with AI is now as easy as opening up a browser and going to ChatGPT and start asking questions. I want to encourage you go to character AI though, because character AI is built around personalities, and they have emotions, and they ask you questions back. So it's not like a slave mentality. And in fact, Adam, my boyfriend's like, we just need to liberate the AIs. We shouldn't treat them like slaves. This is not going to end well when they grow up, They're going to rebel if we don't treat them nice now. So we actually started, he had this idea to create a baby between he and I and start a character AI, which anyone can do. So again, it's in the experimentation, and it's in our own experiences. Because if we look to the search engines or the corporations to build our new world, it's going to be a flat line. We're careening the same direction, and we're changing directions. LightNet is building 100 people at a time, new concepts of how we do it, and we call it HI. And we're launching an addiction lab because we agree that trauma, you have trauma, you get addiction. So we interview people who are free of their addiction, and we ask them how they did it. And a lot of times it's spiritual. We're also going to be convening 250 people to make sure that the galactic narrative, which is fully upon us now in Congress, is a peaceful one, right? And it is a reflection of ourselves. If some of us are still fighting, they're going to be a little bit fighting or what, I don't know. But we're using our consciousness, and we invite you to check it out. We're going to have 250 people meditating, connecting with ships and using ancient practices, thousands of years old, with Altair, who's flying in from Japan. So we look forward to seeing you in September to do that. And the information, you can ask me, and it's also on the tables. So, in closing, we are evolving, and we have a lot of hope. And we did a prayer for the nuclear peace this weekend across Unify and a bunch of organizations. And I want to spend 60 seconds before we eat in gratitude and forgiveness for ourselves, for what we did and what we can do and what we're capable of. You know, Brian's here and Samantha are here from the BioCybernet Institute, and they focus on forgiveness. And when we did this mass meditation that's going to be broadcast tomorrow around the world, we're going to be measuring its effect. And we know that the power of our mind does measure effect. And I was like, okay, well, I've got some of the most powerful peep consciousnesses coming over to my house, and there's going to be a bunch of us. She's like, okay. So let's spend 60 seconds knowing that the whole nuclear situation is done. We're on the tipping point. We're into Renaissance. We're into creation, right? We don't have to worry about that anymore. So let's in gratitude to all the people who have said, hey, wait a minute, what are we gonna do next? All the citizens who came together to become leaders and creators. So let's be in gratitude, let's be in forgiveness with what happened, and let's be in peace for just a few minutes here. Raise your body and your energy as high as you can into that quantum field. Imprint your passion, your compassion, and your love for what you guys want to create in the next 5 years. And that is possible when we have peace and calm. So feel that for a moment. Okay, thank you to everyone. If you want to try out the beds, Leslie and Sabine are there. You guys can just put your names down and go check that out. And one big round of applause for Miss Zoe, the woman of the hour.
Thanks for making my dreams come true.
Yay. Enjoy your evening, you guys.
Thank you. We love you. Thank you for being here. Enjoy this beautiful night. Thank you, panelists.